Well, hello everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us here in this virtual conversation. I'm really pleased to be joined by composer Dr. Pete Meechan and two of our collaborators from the Brandon University School of Music and Faculty of Education, Dr. Wendy Zander and Kendalyn Penner, who have created lesson plans to help guide you through introducing and learning Wave of Light with your students and your musicians. And we're going to dive into a few topics related to those lesson plans and how you might approach things with your students. And just before we dive into that, I want to welcome Pete to share a few words about Wave of Light.
Yeah, this has kind of been an interesting process for me. Two of the things I love most about composing is the collaboration involved in the music coming into life, and also then watching the piece as it sort of goes out into the world and its growth and how it changes and how people view it. And this has been a completely different project for me because the collaboration came from a non-musical source with Cancer Care Manitoba Foundation, and then in terms of working with Kendalyn and Wendy on these amazing resources, that is something that I've never had folks really work on my music in this way before. And then the growth of the piece is all going to happen pretty much at once. There's going to be a lot of performances, the majority of which in May, and so it'll be amazing to hear all these different sort of takes on the piece, and that is kind of musically exciting. I'm always up for a new journey, and this is certainly one of those.
It has been quite a journey so far, and I'm excited where the road is going to take us here as we approach the spring. As you can see, the weather is sunny behind me and bright days are ahead, and I really do think we're going to shine a wave of light all across Manitoba here the next few months. All right, so we're going to dive into these wonderful resources that Wendy and Kendalyn so graciously created for us to guide and deepen our learning of Wave of Light and how we might approach it. And so let's talk about how the different versions, because there are three different versions of Wave of Light in differing difficulties, meant so that the piece can be accessible to just about any level of musician. Let's talk about how that all works and how they can work together.
Sounds great. Well, welcome to a quick rundown. Before we talk about the three different versions, we might want to talk about the fastest way for a teacher who is a busy person trying to make projects work. They're inspired by this opportunity to have student leadership and community involvement and support those who are going through a cancer journey and fundraising for Cancer Care Manitoba Foundation. So when Dr. Meeking composed this piece, he started at the piano. And so a great way to start score studying is to start listening to the piano version first, so you can really get a sense of sort of some of the more technical things that are in the work. So there are three versions of the piece, and the first one is level 3, and the second one is level 2, and then there's a flex version, which is much more accessible, more like a level 1. And so you can start by listening to the piano, and that will give you a really good sense of the piece of music. You can take a look at the study guide and see the different form of the piece and the melodies in each section, and then decide what version are suitable for your ensemble and what versions will be used by your ensemble members. So your ensemble could be your core high school ensemble or your core junior high ensemble. It could be a mix of the ensembles. It could involve community partners or teachers. It could involve folks who haven't played in a while, who actually have some skill in their instrument, but they're picking it up again for the first time. So when we consider all of these possibilities, it's good to know that those three versions exist and that you can learn a lot about those versions by first looking at the piano part. So listening to that recording, first of all, and getting a good concept of the piece without the band versions is a good way to start. And then going and understanding that the version 3 is written without the piano part. So a quick look at the score will show you that there are some 16th notes in some of the woodwind parts that are in the piano part, that there are a lot of different challenges that do not exist in the level 2 part. So if we're doing the level 3 part, pardon me. If we're doing that version, then we are doing it without the piano if we choose to. The level 2 version, you can perform with the piano, and the level 1 version, the flex version, you also should do with the piano. So the beautiful thing is all the parts are interchangeable. So let's say we're in a community collaboration, we're using the level 2 part. We have some more advanced musicians from our community who can play the level 3 part. We have some beginners from the community who can play the flex version, which can all work together. So all 3 parts are interchangeable, and we learn the most by kind of listening to that piano part first and then deciding which version we want to use from version A, which is level 3, B in the score, which is level 2, or the flex version. The one thing to consider when you're picking your core version that you're going to use with the entire ensemble is probably what your instrumentation is. If you're from a like a relatively small school and you have 8 players in your group, the piece is completely doable. Use the piano version and then grab your parts from A, B, and C. And knowing that you have that piano part to cover so much of the work is really key, so that it doesn't matter on the size of the ensemble. If you're dealing with a massive ensemble who's used to playing at the level 3, then go ahead and program that level version A and the level 3, and then you can add in those additional parts from the B and the A version, just keeping in mind that you might want to pay close attention to some of the original scoring. So there's some really beautiful writing for saxophone choir. So maybe when you're assigning saxophone parts, you pay attention to those parts and how that's written. And then there's also our percussion parts, and there's information in the study guide about which parts you might use if you have only one percussionist or 2 percussionists, and then what you might do if you don't have a vibraphone player and you'd like to do the version 3 as well. So the study guide is going to cover off some of those basic things about which version to use and how to adapt them as well. But that is where I would start, is with listening to that piano part and then determining whether or not you want to use that all the time. If you have a live piano player, you could use that. If you have a guest piano player coming in, you could use the recording until the guest arrives. And if you have a really talented pianist in your ensemble who wants to play with the wind ensemble version level 3, then you can do that as well.
So many great ways to involve folks. Can I just ask one question for clarification? So all 3 versions can be performed independently, of course. You could choose to do just one version, but they're all interchangeable. So you could have musicians playing in your ensemble playing multiple different parts based on what works best for their experience and ability level. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And just to follow up with that, the reason I say that select your core one first is you're going to have to use one of the scores as the conductor. And when you first get from Cancer Care Manitoba, when you first get all those 3 scores, I know for myself, I was like, oh my gosh, what should I do? So that's why I'm suggesting that you start with the piano part first and just kind of take a look at that and then decide, okay, now that I understand the form of the piece is going to be the same whether I use A, B, or C, but I'll be able to look at how each of the individual parts contribute to the overall sound of the work itself.
So there's the band parts for the instrumental musicians, but then there's this amazing thing that we can do involving singers. Um, so why don't we talk about that aspect of Wave of Light as well? Because this is one of the really inclusive and really unique pieces about Wave of Light, is that we can involve more folks in a performance than just the ensemble, um, so that it can truly be a community experience. And how you can do that can be approached very differently, of course, depending on the way you've planned this and the way you plan to do it and who you wish to involve. So let's talk a bit more about the choral scores and how they work with the concert band score.
Yeah, absolutely. So the choral scores are much like the band score that the different parts can all work interchangeably with whatever band part that you're playing. So if you're playing the level one, the level two, the level three, you can sing either the full choir part or just have the lead vocal line or just have the lead vocal line and the lower harmony. So it really creates this community of collaboration that you can bring in whatever works for your ensemble, whatever works for your students. Um, in the rehearsal techniques, it outlines the different ranges of the voices. So this might uh, influence which parts that you use when teaching the vocal line. When I taught the audience at the premiere in Brandon, I focused on just the vocal line one, the lead vocal line, and the lower vocal line, so that every person could accept it could be accessible to every person, either in their upper range or their lower range. So knowing which part and if you want to use the full choir part or just the lead vocal line or the lower vocal line really comes down to you knowing your students, your ensemble, who is going to be singing in collaboration with the band. So you might have the high school choir singing with you, in which you would sing the four-part harmony, or you might have a grade 7-8 choir, which they might be singing the two-part, the lead vocal line, and the voice two harmony. It really comes down to knowing who is going to be singing with you. The audience often will sing just the lead voice line and the lower voice line as they are unison, just an octave apart. And um, yeah, the four-part harmony can be a bit tricky, so it might be more more accessible for a high level choir, maybe grade 9 to 12. But yeah.
That's great. Thank you for that, Kendalyn. I think one of the really powerful opportunities with Wave of Light is the ability to involve so many people. So we've talked about the accessibility and of the multi-level band parts. And now we've talked about the accessibility of different ways that you can use and incorporate the vocal parts depending on what choirs you might have to collaborate with in your community, be they in your school, choirs of different age and experience groups. And here's an opportunity to bring together a family of schools as well that might not have a chance to collaborate all that often. If you've got an elementary school, feeder schools, the choir in your middle school or in your high school, they can all work together. And as we've now learned, there are different approaches to all of them being successful and working together. And we're going to talk in a little bit about how to approach this with the audience too, because I think this is going to be one of the most powerful aspects of Wave of Light is the ability to involve everybody in the performance. Before we dive into that, why don't we talk about some rehearsal challenges and solutions that relate to the score and in ways we might approach that in learning the piece.
Love to talk about that. The piece is very carefully scored for success. So it's going to sound beautiful. And the experience that for folks that have already performed it in the two venues have been that, I mean, my students just loved it. They found it emotionally, heartstring pulling, and they also
Yeah.
found it technically engaging. So the one of the greatest challenges, of course, regardless of level, is the legato style of the piece and maintaining that continuous airstream. So the importance of air support, and it was particularly with younger students, and the notion that they want to keep that airstream moving. One of the things that you need to think about, and probably the largest challenge with using the score C and score B, which are the level 1 and level 2, is the tempo. Because if you're going to be using the piano part with it, and the students are not accustomed to playing along with the recording, you're going to have to be very adherent to the tempo because there's no flex in the recording. So that idea of working with the students on internal subdivision, which of course we're doing every day anyway, and playing along with a metronome, playing along with the recording at a normal pace, and just thinking about how you're going to make that a recording accessible to students, having it available for them so that they learn to listen to their own part and the recording at the same time. Because, as students are developing, we're teaching them to focus on listening to themselves. So just getting them to have an ear on themselves and an ear on the recording. And then having a recording playback source in your classroom that allows them to hear that part, and thinking about how that's going to work at your performance so that that recording doesn't become inaccessible because the speakers are pointed out at the audience or they're right. And so just a little bit more thought about that as you're preparing that score C and score B is really key, because that playing along with the piano, and when you're not accustomed to it, or it's like a click track. If you're not accustomed to it, it can cause challenges. And as we know, when students get excited about a performance, that's when their internal clock goes out the window. So just creating an ease with that, and making that recording available to them so that they can practice by themselves, right? It's a little bit like the smart music program. It's engaging for them to be able to play along with that recording even when they're working on it at home. And the same is true, even though the level C folks might not be using the level 3 folks, the score A might not be using that score in the performance. They can have that piano recording to practice at home and to work on it and develop their own part together. Can be done at home with brothers and sisters with that piano part and the two parts practicing together. So there's lots of ways to use that, and that's one just like a solution that I think is really important. But that legato style and that steady tempo are going to be oh so important. The other thing that I will say is that even though the rhythms aren't technically complex, other than 16th notes in the level 3 score A, just making sure that the balance and blend are working for what needs to be heard for the Wave of Light themes. And those themes are outlined in the study guide, so you'll be able to hear them. And then what needs to be heard from the colors that are offered in the score, balancing those interesting melodic percussion instruments that are included, and also allowing the sustenance of the timpani and the resonance of the sound to come through from those percussion instruments and what they're adding. So when you are preparing to add the vocal parts and the audience part, if you choose to do that with your choir or whatever, then we're all of a sudden dealing with some issues with balance and color and thinking about how we want those to sound. And those are going to be on a case-by-case basis, and just making sure that we carefully think about how we're going to project that recorded piano part and how we're going to prepare those students to make sure that the subdivision is consistent, particularly if you're using a guest pianist later on or someone who's not there at every single rehearsal. That will be key as well. But if you can subdivide and really create a beautiful legato do articulation, then that's going to go a long way for success on Wave of Light.
Oh, thank you, Wendy. All right, so we've talked a bit about now incorporating the vocal aspect with the instrumental aspect. And Kendalyn, who's here with us, has created a really wonderful lesson plan on how to approach teaching Wave of Light with your audience so that they can take part right in the moment at your performance. So let's dive into that. Kendalyn, would you talk us through some challenges and some solutions in your approach to working with your audience?
So I had the opportunity to teach the audience, and the first thing that I really needed to do and what got the audience interested was getting the audience to like move a little bit, to warm up their voice, to when you're up there and you're talking to the audience, they might just think, oh, I'm just here to listen. But if you're fun and activating and engaging, then they're going to want to participate. And then they will sing out more instead of just maybe mumbling to themselves. So it really comes down to like your energy while you're teaching the audience. So one of the challenges that I thought of when I was looking at the score and teaching the audience was keeping the time and rhythm precise as you're singing along with the band, and it's a new part that is just taught to the audience 3 minutes before. So it helps if the person teaching the audience is conducting or snapping or showing that beat very clearly. Also, if when you're placing the change in words, you can use one hand to place the word where the words come in and where the words come off. So use cue to cue the word in and cut the word off. So I found that when I was teaching this piece, there was the ah vowel was very important in this song, as the first part is just on the vowel ah. And if you are listening to a choir and they're all singing different vowels of different placements of the ah vowel, it will sound very not correct and somewhat flat or sharp and not right. So establishing the correct ah place in the vowel in the mouth first by getting the audience to sigh and find that sighing space in the mouth, which everybody does. So it's accessible to them so that they know that this is the space that they want to place the ah. One of the things that I found when on the text for wave of light, these are somewhat tricky words to sing as they both include diphthongs, which means there's two separate vowels in the word, so wave and light. So when you're singing and you're teaching the audience, you're going to want to have them sustain on the first vowel, so wave, and close to the diphthong while you close to the final consonant. And this can be shown through your cutoff or placement of the final vowel, of the final consonant. To get this song, to get the audience really involved and confident, it comes down to clear models and repetition, repetition, repetition. They need to hear it multiple times, and your model needs to be confident and clear so that they feel that they can sing out confident and clearly. So what Dr. Zander said about the legato line, if the choir or the audience isn't singing in this legato style, then it could sound choppy and disjunct from the band. So you could have, you as the conductor could show this phrasing with your hand, which could engage the choir audience to sing with more phrasing, or you could have the audience move a little bit, move their hands, which would just move in like a flowing motion, which helps the body to let go, not feel choppy, not feel tense, and more engaged in the legato flowing feel of the song. And then when singing this piece and the words and the ahs, like the connection to the meaning of the piece is what really is the most important. So telling the audience what you're singing about, have them connect with why this is important to them. Maybe it's important to someone around them. And that's what will really give this piece meaning and just passion and emotion, and it'll make it so powerful.
I just quickly add that I was lucky enough to be conducting at Brandon, and Kendalyn had first taught this to the audience, and I was absolutely blown away with what you did and how you did it. And seeing you teach was wonderful, and the materials you produced reflect what you taught. But then conducting it and looking over to you and seeing you smile as you turned to the audience and brought them in, and it worked perfectly. It was incredibly powerful sitting there and conducting that. But then afterwards, I sneaked out into the lobby and seeing all of those people who are usually sat there listening to music actually getting to participate in it and feeling all the things that we get to feel, all the love that we have for music and the joy in making music was incredible. So thank you so much for producing such great materials to help with that, Kendalyn, because I don't know that it's going to be as successful as it could be without your contribution. Thank you. and of course same times.
Kendalyn and Pete just brought up something really great, Brent, that we are kind of taking for granted here. And that is the notion that we were so lucky that Dr. Meechan was able to come out. And the ensemble in Brandon that performed was the University Symphonic Band. And then I had invited all of the Westman band directors from junior high and high schools, as well as students up to, 4 students from each high school. So we had students from different high schools. We also had the teachers in this as well, and of course, Dr. Meechan was conducting, pardon me. But we did use 2 conductors, and that's the point I wanted to make, is that
Mhm.
Pete conducted the ensemble, and then Kendalyn stepped in and conducted the audience. And I think that that is a really great key piece to make this successful. And the piece is written in the band parts in key signature of B flat, with 2 flats, but it begins in G minor, and then it modulates over to B flat major, and then with accidentals goes to D major for the chorus where the voices sing. So we are in a totally different key center when the choir comes in. And it's good to have that conductor. So what Kendalyn just so tastefully did, and you can watch this, the link to the video of her doing it is in the study guide. But you can watch Kendalyn graciously just step back and then come back right before the audience enters again. And that worked really, really well. And if you have even if it's a senior student that's doing that, or a community member, or an enthusiastic parent, to have someone who can lead that, it was nice to have that supportive conductor out in front, just bringing the audience in. I think that worked really well.
For sure. Yeah, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to be there to experience all of that magic. But I'm so glad that we get to experience it through you, and through the ideas you've just shared about more ways to be collaborative with how one might perform Wave of Light in their own community. The more people that can be involved, the more powerful this will be. The more connections you'll make, the more community you can build, and the greater the impact can be of the Wave of Light project, which is, of course, to make life better for Manitobans, and heal through all of that, and to raise funds for cancer care at the same time. Um, I'm really grateful for all of these amazing ideas and approaches, and points of inspiration that you've shared with us today. Is there anything that we didn't cover, anything else that we didn't cover that we might want to include for
I
folks?
would like to just say a couple of things about like the logistics of the putting this project together. The first one is that Wave of Light is a vessel to encourage community involvement and student leadership. It really is an opportunity to help students learn about service, volunteerism, and compassion. I think this can serve to unite schools, and cancer affects us all, and it's just undisputably a powerful experience all around. So the idea of a fundraiser can be a little bit of overwhelming, as we're adding one more thing to the task of what a music educator has to do. So having student leadership on the fundraising, it doesn't matter if the ensemble raises $20 or $2,000. The notion is that students are learning skills and learning empathy. And so in the study guide, I just put some silly ideas in there, like a small ensemble dessert night, a student recital, a challenge to your principal. If we raise so much money, we're going to teach the level C version to the principal on the clarinet, which he doesn't play, or she doesn't play. We're going to do a silent auction of donated items. We're going to have a thrift sale. Whatever the ideas are that can come forward, the amount of money that is raised for the Cancer Care of Manitoba Foundation is amazing. But more importantly, it's the skills that our students will develop. It's the culture of care that this can cultivate in our program and in our community. And if you would just indulge me to just read something that Jayna Kanton said at our concert, at which I had her send me. She said, "Wave of Light was composed with the belief that music has the power to heal, unite, and bring light into the darkest moments. It's not only a piece of music, but it is a vessel for emotional expression and for reflection. While every listener and performer brings their own story, this work provides a sense of unity and shared understanding. It is a wave of hope and light, reminding us that we are not alone. Each performance becomes a moment of connection between people, memories, and the healing power of music. I just thought that was amazing, and I thank Jayna Kanton so much for her reflections about that.
What beautiful words. And what a beautiful experience she must have had. And that's what we hope for all of you out there watching, listening today, that you will have a similar experience in your own musical community. Um, this has been a great opportunity to share some ideas, tips, tricks, points of inspiration, ways to approach this, and ways to go beyond the music and really do something powerful with Wave of Light. Pete, do you want to share any last words as we wrap up our conversation today?
I mean, I think those words that Wendy just spoke say pretty much everything. For me, this is just, it was an opportunity to bring together all the things that I care about and an opportunity to raise money for something that needs money raising for, but also this is an incredible moment to produce thousands and thousands of advocates for what we do. We, as a group of people, as musicians, we know the power of music, and we know that people appreciate music. If we're somehow able to produce performances that allow them to be part of that power, then I think we just create an incredible legacy of people who've never performed music before, who've maybe only ever sung in the car or the shower before, actually getting to sing around people and feel what a choir feels like, or just any participation in group activities, music or not. And so it's all about community, it's all about collaboration, and I'm so glad that this is happening, and really looking forward to hearing some of these performances.
Awesome. Thank you, Pete. I am too. I am just so excited for all the different ways we're going to see Wave of Light take shape and shine across Manitoba this spring. We hope, of course, that you will take part in this as well. Head on over to waveoflight.ca. All you have to do is register your event, and that'll give you access to the music, the different versions as we've talked about today. The resources are there as well. The really wonderful study guides that Wendy and Kendalyn have created. The audio recordings are there. There's some video and lots of resources from Cancer Care to help you with the fundraising aspects and also how to make this a powerful experience. And they are there to help out and answer questions along the way as well. So we really try to make this as easy as possible, but also make it easy to make it as powerful and as collaborative as possible. And I think that's the real beauty in all of this. So thank you all for joining us today for this conversation. I've learned a lot, and I hope everyone watching has as well. And like I say, I'm really excited to see those waves of light shine across Manitoba this spring.